This week's scenario is the Pit from the Steamroller 2016 packet. This scenario does have the Killbox Artifice in effect and consists of a 12-inch zone, which can be controlled for 1 CP or dominated for 2 CPs. The friendly flag can be dominated for 1 CP, and the enemy flag can be controlled for 1 CP or dominated for 2 CPs. Victory conditions consist of 5 control points or caster assassination.
Pokey here, and I decided to go with an old familiar, Dominar Rasheth, and a lot of Titans. As you can tell, I pretty much have one of everything, 2 sentries, and to help with everything, with all the fury management, I went with 2 Men Beast Handler units, and then a Willbreaker, an Extoller, and an Agonizer, now that he's a lesser light war beast.
Hey everybody, Taodark here. So today I'm running my Harkevich list. Did a little bit of trimming to it, took the Demolisher out, dropped in a Juggernaut and 2 Kodiaks, and a Mad Dog, cause Mad Dogs. I like the Mad Dogs actually because they provide me the ability of throwing a heavy up front for potential trade, and then having the Juggernauts being able to countercharge, and then the Kodiaks and smoke and reposition is kind of a nice little way to provide some cloud wall type effect. So for my deployment, for a list like this where you're basically sitting down 8 heavies on the table, it actually becomes very easy because there's not really much change or dynamic in the list. I usually put a Juggernaut on each side, I put a Kodiak on each side, I put a Magda on each side. That way at no point in time am I projecting a certain path of victory to my opponent during a deployment, so it's very symmetrical.
Alright, deployment. I actually won the roll, and I decided to go second. Mostly because I did not want to be behind that obstacle, the obstruction, on Taodark's side. And my thought was, well, because one, that's inside the kill box, so I didn't want to give him free points. And so with that idea, I went ahead and figured, well, I have a lot of beef. I'm going to set up in front of my flag and get my caster to the flag and put the Titans in the center, and hopefully they can do something against all of his jacks. But it looks like his deployment was pretty much identical to my idea, so I just kept with what I already had and hoped that I could outmove him up the table.
Khador, turn 1. So for the game to start out, with this being the Pit, it's a very centrally deployed scenario. The game exists on the circle. In just about every single game I've played on the Pit, it consists of armies coming together into the center, smashing in the circle, while the casters usually sit on their flags. Arguably on my side of the board, and I think my opponent actually did this to me on purpose, is that these kind of high walls, this L-shaped high wall that we basically committed to being an obstruction, becomes a scenario of difficulty for moving around. So here I'm kind of pre-measuring out where my Kodiak can get and potentially drop the cloud down. I come to the conclusion that I'm not necessarily going to be able to protect my caster in any way with the cloud, so I just choose to run the Kodiak in front of my caster, being in base to base, so he gets the increased bonus, and blocking line of sight using the obstruction and the wall. The rest of the army is pretty much just going to run up and get in position. The Behemoth's going to tuck himself inside the obstruction L, so that he can basically play backline bombards, and then the rest of the army is just kind of advancing forward, getting in position for turn 2 and reacting to what he does.
Alright, I did not realize he was going to be as fast as he was. That's pretty damn fast to get to the table, for Khador anyways. So, my plan is pretty much still the same. Pretty much run up the field as fast as I possibly can, and hopefully try not to get charged on my next turn. So I start with Rasheth, and I put Rush out on the Cannoneer, the Bronzeback, and the 1 Sentry. And right there I'm measuring to make sure that hopefully I'm outside of the threat range of the 1 Juggernaut. The last thing I need is him to charge my Bronzeback and take him out before I even get to do anything with him. Nice thing about this game, I get to use my Muse on Minis tokens that I just picked up, and they're a little smaller than I'm used to, but they're very nice, they're very handy, they're very well painted, and they kind of fit in with the rest of the table, so it's not such a detraction from the rest of it, you know, unlike my white beads I'm using for my caster still. So now next is the Cannoneer, which just does a standard advance, and then I put Far Strike up on it because that's its Animus, and then I boost it to hit and some damage on, I want to say, the Juggernaut, because last thing I needed is a fully healthy Khador and Warjack in my face, so I went ahead and tried to shoot at some. I knew the well, what is it, those things, I don't know what they're called, the Mad Dogs or whatever it is. I know those things are a little bit lighter. I probably could have put more damage on those, but I figured I could wait a little bit because they should have had less damage boxes, lighter armor, and so I can go from there. So now the next part is just moving up the, activating the Gladiator. He ended up putting Rush up on the, I'm sorry, I ran a Sentry up to kind of block the way. I activated the Gladiator, he put Rush up on the second Sentry, and then he just kind of advanced forward. Beast Handlers doing what Beast Handlers do, they're advancing forward and helping with managing Fury.
Khador, turn 2. So my current threats or concerns consist of the Bronzeback, which is on the top of the screen, which is my equivalent right. He's got it kind of far out, so there's no way of me charging to it. That's obvious. But then also the scenario of trying to... I measure Behemoth to my caster just as a reference point of knowing how far is Behemoth from, or how far is the caster from getting shot by Behemoth. Now, he's got Impervious Flesh, so he takes 1 less die on range attacks, but any damage I could potentially get on the caster could end up spilling over to more significant damage on the higher armored beast through transfers. The other scenario I'm looking at is the fact that he has not put, because of the speed of Skorne, it's a similar situation with Khador, because of the speed, it's difficult to get into that circle on turn 1. So if there's any possibility of me jamming him with a jack or two outside of his zone, potentially getting a scenario where I might be able to go into scoring points at the bottom of 2 because he can't get into the zone. So that's one of the first things to do. I'm laying out dice right now. This is something actually I've been doing lately, which is when I think out my order of activations, I'll lay a dice down with the number of what needs to move first. So the first thing I need to move in my order of activations gets a 1, the next thing gets a 2, a 3, and so on and so forth. Because I've found that if I can somehow place a marker, it reminds me, hey dummy, don't do number 3 because you haven't done number 2 yet. I will let you know that during this turn I absolutely forget about my dice and do it anyways. It's a new tactic that I'm trying to learn and implement, and I'm struggling to actually pay attention to my own strategy. One of the other things that I'm running into is that because of the way I ran up, I actually kind of foobarred myself because my caster doesn't have a line to the objective, because I moved up jacks in such a way that I have to move them in order for the jacks to move, but in order for them to get their maximum output, I need to put up escort, which means I need to move the caster, or I need to activate the caster before the jacks. So I just kind of really screwed myself out of potentially setting myself up to get a point on my objective at the bottom of 2. Because his speed won't allow him necessarily to contest me unless he would like run a beast handler or something up to do it. So unfortunately, because I need the escort more than I need the control point at this point, I activate the escort, or I activate the put up the caster, put up escort, and then I move him closer to the flag so that I can potentially start working on my control points on the top of 3. The other issue that I've kind of run into is a scenario of I'm not ready to pop feet yet. I want to get an alpha strike, or I want to get some level of damage into him, and then pop feet to be able to blunt any sort of response to it. So because of that, I'm gonna kind of use the Kodiaks and the reposition for the Cloud Wall abilities. Right now, I'm just going through an activation. I'm basically charging up through Escort and Run. I'm trying to get a position where I'm charging up and engaging to the heavies. And right here, I kind of come to the realization of the jamming him out of the zone is not necessarily a thing. I get his Cannoneer locked up, and I get one of the Sentries locked up, so his Cannoneer is not going to be able to shoot with this turn, unless he does something about me. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not his Cannoneer that I got locked up, it's the caster that I've got engaged. So he's kind of got to do something about it, and dumb me, completely forgot that Bronzebacks have countercharge. So his Bronzeback's going to get a pretty good hit on that Juggernaut. In hindsight, this is probably not a smart play. I should have gone for what I do in the back half of this turn, and then just kind of, accept the attack, or accept the blunting, not trying to engage him. A little bit more time spent on pre-measuring probably would have made that clear to me, but I'm still trying to manage clock, and I did not put enough time into pre-measuring as I wanted. So here we're going through, and I'm going through the logic of, okay, the Bronzeback's engaged now, maybe I can get some more, maybe I can continue down this whole, blocking him out of the zone. So again, going through the pre-measurings, trying to set up, see where I can optimize things, see what I can charge, what I can get away with, and then I'm pretty sure I just kind of abandoned the plan. Or no, you know what? I do end up running a Mad Dog up there to set the engagement on that, just because I'm like, it's a Mad Dog, it's 7 points, who cares? So I set the Mad Dog up. He's now engaging the 2 sentries. He's not going to be preventing those sentries from getting into the zone, but they're not necessarily going to get down the table. So the rest of my army can advance halfway up into the zone. The other one of the Juggernauts runs to the left. Now I'm set. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm pre-measuring out where would my Jack go for the purposes of trampling forward, and then venting steam to get the cloud off, and then basically, setting up the ring. And then doing the reposition. With the reposition 3, I basically can get it where the Kodiak backs out and is to front of the base, is towing the back of the cloud, so that I can turn around and put those clouds up. Better positioning, I might have gotten a little bit of a broader spread on these. Currently, right now, the 2 clouds are overlapping each other, but it prevents those 2 sentries from getting any charges off on my Jacks. So my 2 Kodiaks and one of the Juggernauts is behind the wall. My caster will be behind the smoke wall. My caster's currently hugging a mat. He's got a 7-point Mad Dog that's giving him the armor bonus at this point. And then I advance Behemoth up and use reposition to get him out of the way, so that something's not going to come after him next turn after he does some shots. And this shooting that I'm doing here, I'm shooting at the Cannoneer because of arcing fire. I don't necessarily have concerns of blocking line of sight. I'm trying to put damage on the Cannoneer so that I don't have to worry about shooting that might potentially come my caster's way, but also was hoping to potentially clip some infantry. And then I move a Juggernaut up, which may not necessarily have been right.
Okay, that reposition thing is kind of neat. It allows him to move those Kodiaks up and do the little smoke thing, and then back out of it so they're not in it. Actually, really, really neat. So now I'm awfully glad that I have the Extoller in the list, because, well, now I can see past the clouds. When he brought the Juggernaut in to tie up my Sentry, and hoping to tie up the Cannoneer so the Cannoneer couldn't do anything, it was kind of lucky that the Bronzeback was able to countercharge and do some damage on the Juggernaut. I'm thinking that this is probably going to be feet turn, and hoping that I could get Rasheth over to the flag, because if I can do that, it's bottom of 2. I should be able to start to score. So now I'm advancing the blue beast handlers, and the whole idea for them is to move up so they can not be in the way. They can do enrage, they can do medicate, condition, whatever it is I need him to do. And I think just for this round, I really needed them to enrage. So, you know, I advance them up. It's all about sequencing, I guess. You know, figuring out what the sequence is going to be. So, Beast Handlers go, they do their little bit. Then Rasheth goes. And this is where I'm trying to figure out, is it going to be worth for me to do a Sundered Spirit into the Juggernaut? Because if I miss, I potentially could take out my own, I could probably potentially hit my own guy with that same Sundered Spirit. So, thinking, I went ahead and popped feet. I then went ahead and went with Sundered Spirit because, well, you know, gotta play. So, with them only being defense, what, 10, 14 in combat, I'm an 8, I needed a 6, I boosted it to hit. Odds say it works in my favor. So I did a little bit of damage to him because he's now a armor 18 because of the feat. And then I advanced the Sentry up to that marker there, and I use him to just beat on the Juggernaut. Unfortunately, even with Enrage and under the feet, it takes quite a bit of the Sentry's activation to take out the Juggernaut. I then spend the rest of whatever I have left to swing on the Mad Dog that ran up into that ran between my two Sentries to block them in. Pretty much finishing it off all together with attacks. I then, now that I have space, I put the Sentry back. Now, looking across the table at what Taodark has placed in front of me is pretty damn scary. I mean, that's a lot of heavies with a lot of mobility, a lot of movement shenanigans. I've got to do something to help whittle them down. So, Bronzeback Gladiator moves up. He finishes off the one Mad Dog. He puts Rush up on the Sentry. It's hiding behind the forest. The Extoller moves around, puts Guidance on the one Sentry. And then the Sentry with Enrage charges the the Kodiak, I think it is, because that's the only one I could really see around the tree base. I was hoping to go for the Juggy, but well, Kodiak, Juggy, same difference, right? So he ends up spending all of his attacks. I'm thinking all of his attacks, because he has to spend one to charge. Then he has his 3 base, and then he ends up buying, I think, 1 additional into the Kodiak. I want to say he ends up killing the Kodiak, and then he spends 1 into the Juggernaut. Because I'm figuring, well, if I'm going to be hot, might as well be all the way hot. You know. One other thing, before Rasheth ended up finishing up his turn, when he came forward after the Sundered Spirit, he also put Rush up on the Bronzeback. And you saw me counting on my fingers the distance the Bronzeback could go with Rush and charging and all the other happy stuff. He was probably about a quarter of an inch closer than his max threat. So now it's a matter of putting out whatever his animus is now. I can't pronounce it. It's something, but it gives me beatback, and it's a direct beatback. So I'm going to use all my initial attacks to push it backwards. Actually, all my basic attacks to push it backwards, and then hopefully get some swings on the Behemoth, because with that being his only real ranged Jack, I felt the need to lock it in, even if it cost me my bronze back. Because unfortunately, Rasheth does not like being shot in the face. But I end up hitting with both my initial fists. I do a chain attack headbutt to knock the jack down. I then use my tusks to swing on it, to beat on it one more time, to push it back. And then I think I have to buy an attack. Yep. Oh no, it's my final attack, my final bot attack goes into the Behemoth, because I'm finally close enough to the Behemoth to finally hit him. So I end up hitting the Behemoth. I do some damage to him, not a whole bunch. But now my problem I have is that the Kodiak has a direct line to... The Kodiak has a direct line to my caster, which if that thing gets up there, it's going to hurt. So I advanced the Cannoneer, and that's why I just checked and saw that the Kodiak was not engaged by the Bronzeback. But the Cannoneer advances, and he ends up shooting the knocked down Juggernaut that had like a box left. So I made sure to kill it. Didn't want it to get up and do any kind of beating on me. And of course the Cannoneer is basically there to stop him from being able to slam anybody into my caster.
Khador, turn 3. Oh God! Did anybody see that truck just smash into my army? So Rasheth's feat is super strong. Like, the last turn made that extremely obvious. This is actually the first time I've played against Rasheth in Mark 3, and the fact that not only does it just make his beast amazing during his turn, but the fact that I am hindered in my turn, it kind of double dips in the scenario. So the minus defense makes it great, you know, or minus the armor makes it great. He can really crush through my armor with no issues. I can definitely see how Rasheth is a good armor or anti-armor caster for Skorne, but the fact that my ability to reciprocate back, because my abilities, it's almost like Danny 1 in a way, where it's like, you know, not only are you able to kill me super well, but I can't necessarily retaliate because I'm under the other side of the effect, which is affecting my output damage to go as well. This is obviously going to be a turn in which that I'm going to feat. If I, you know, what work I can get done is going to be limited, so I need to make sure that what is on the table still carries me forward. If this was a scenario where I wasn't playing with 8 jacks and he had saved his feat, you know, maybe killed out what infantry I had and then used his feat on the, you know, 2 or 3 or whatever jacks I had, I'm not sure I'd even have a game anymore. That feat just kind of removes heavies with relative ease. The Bronzeback got a ton of work done, and if you remember in the last turn where I said it was probably not a good idea that I had moved that jack forward, is because when Behemoth repositioned off and away, he wasn't within range of the Bronzeback to charge him. However, when I moved that Juggernaut up, I gave the Bronzeback something to charge, to beat back, to get in range, to put damage onto Behemoth. Now luckily, Behemoth's still fully functional. There's not I mean, there's a lot of damage on him, but all of his system boxes are still available to him. So the Juggernaut was definitely a misplay. There really was no rhyme or reason for me to push him up there. Just the you know, mental state of I need to move forward kind of made me want to push him up there. If I wanted to push him up there, what I should have done is kind of pushed him up, but pushed him off to the right, so that way anything that came in towards the center, the Juggernaut on the right could come in, or if you went after the Juggernaut on the right, you were in no position to come after the army. Or just not advance him, like leave him back as a counter-strike element. And then I would have had another Juggernaut on the table instead of the one I have right now. You know, the Bronzeback, obviously a threat. He's a huge damage output. Also, he's super close to my caster, and I'm uncomfortable with that. There's a, I believe there's a, it's the Sentry is currently engaging one of my Juggernauts on the right-hand side, and then I've got the baby added on, I'm sorry, the Agonizer added on top of it. The fact that the feet is hindering me so much sucks. The fact that the baby is basically feet plus effect is that much more. The Agonizer has to go. Sorry, we keep calling it the baby because it's the baby elephant. We always joke about, and when you attack the baby elephant, you're attacking a baby. How horrible of a person are you? So you know, I'm really, like, I'll be honest, I tilted hard in this scenario. The reason why you're not seeing much on the table is because I'm trying to take a moment to myself to calm down, to figure out what's going on. And I don't mean calm down as I'm raging or something like that, but when you go on tilt in a game like this, you're not focused, you're not thinking straight, you're not all you're thinking about is, man, I just lost 4 heavies, this sucks, I just lost 4 heavies, I can't win the game, you killed 4 heavies, there's no way I win the game. Well, yeah, I can, because there's still 4 other heavies on the table, one of which is Behemoth. So I come back, I get a little bit of a gather to it, you know, I kind of try and figure it out, how can I win? He's technically up on attrition. I know we have 4 heavies to 4 heavies, but keep in mind, one of my heavies is a Mad Dog. Don't think of Mad Dogs as heavies. Yes, they're on a heavy frame, yes, they got a lot of boxes, but they have the damage output and the survivability of a light. So it's more like I have 3 heavies and 1 light versus his, you know, 4 heavies and 1 lesser through the light through the Agonizer. So the Behemoth's going to have to take out the Bronzeback. I need to do something about the Sentry that's currently on the table, and I need to do something about the Agonizer. The Agonizer actually is the most important thing for me to remove right now, because if I can't remove the Agonizer, I don't know if Behemoth can necessarily take out the Bronzeback. So that's definitely a scenario. Now, we had to kind of go through some checks and see if I was going to trigger a free strike or anything like that. We wanted to see where he was engaging in, where the Kodiak that's in the middle of the pack is engaged. You know, is he engaged by the Sentry, is engaged by the Bronzeback, and we end up measuring it out, and he's engaged by the Sentry but not engaged by the Bronzeback. So he's only going to take 1 free strike when he runs out, and he's got a decent amount of boxes, so he'll probably survive. So my caster goes, he activates, he puts up Escort. I basically sit on the rest just because there's a potential assassination if this doesn't work out in my favor. And then he goes to base with the flag, so I can start working on the... Actually, did he base to base with the flag? He might not have. I think this might have been another scenario where I didn't have enough distance to deal with it. I have to keep reminding myself that my battle group has repositioned, but my caster does not. It's only the Warjacks, it's not the caster. It would have been nice if I had it, because then I could move and then reposition to the flag. But I don't think I did, actually, now that I think about it. So we're doing some pre-measurings. I'm trying to figure out where the Kodiak's going to lie. I get him in range. I pass it over to my opponent because he's going to get a free strike from the Sentry, which does hit but doesn't do a lot of damage. It doesn't take out any systems or anything like that. So the Kodiak basically goes in, and I do my Vent Steam. Now, the Vent Steam doesn't say that you can't boost it or anything like that. So what I've been doing is I basically take the focus that he's got, and I vent Steam in the hopes of killing the Agonizer, and I do actually manage to pull it off. The Agonizer, even though he's a beast, doesn't have that many hit points, and when I boost an auto-hitting POW 14, it actually just picks up the Agonizer off of an amazing roll. And then I just put some damage into the Sentry. Not a lot, because, you know, I may have removed the Agonizer but through the Vent Steam, so I'm no longer under that effect, but I am still under the effect of the feet. So, you know, it's a lot of, oh, I hit you, you know, no damage. I hit you, 1 point of damage. I hit you, no damage. So, you know, it is what it is. I did manage to get my chain attack off. And my idea was, well, I'll throw him. So originally I was kind of looking at it, I was like, maybe I can throw him at the Extoller, and then smash the Extoller, and then I'm like, screw it, I'll just throw him into the other heavy and knock him down, forcing my opponent to you know, use a Fury to stand him up. and then came to the realization of, wait a second, I can't do that because Sentry can't be knocked down. Or I believe that's the scenario. I basically ended up just going for, I think I went for trying to throw him, and actually missed. So I don't get to throw him, which, you know, that was kind of fringe benefit. I go through the activations with the Juggernaut now, the Juggernaut that's engaging the other Sentry at the bottom screen of the zone. And I do manage to get a crit off, which causes him to go stationary. Now, it's an effect that he'll be able to shake, that's fine, but it reduces his potential damage output, and because I'm under feet, I'm going to be a higher armor value, so it's entirely possible that that Juggernaut is going to be staying there, because the Sentry is just not going to have enough damage due to the fact that he's going to have to spend for the Fury. The Gpbber goes up, he does a repair on the Behemoth. Again, my systems are fully functional, it's not an issue with that, it's just more of a, hey, I've got a Gpbber, might as well repair. So I repair him up, and then I advance the Behemoth up, and now that the baby's gone, my strength is much higher with armor piercing on the fists. I think I end up removing the Bronzeback. I think I put 2 Fury on Behemoth, I'm not sure. But actually, you know what, now that I think about it, I didn't have anything. Harkevich is sitting dry as a bone because he had to put up Escort and give focus off to the Juggernaut and to the Kodiak, so he has nothing on him. So danger, Will Robinson, danger. But it does avail. I have enough focus. I do end up removing the Bronzeback. And then because the Sentry is stationaried, nothing's necessarily going to be in range. I go and bullet off the Mad Dog, since his Mat 5 is a problem normally. Because he's stationary, his Mat 5 is not necessarily an issue, and even though I'm under the feet, the Mad Dog actually manages to put a chunk, not a chunk, more like 4 or 5 points of damage on the Sentry, but it's damage I didn't have before, so I'll take it.
So far, I'm missing the Bronzeback, which phenomenal enough for me. My feed is really doing wonders for me. But now I have, what is that, Kodiak in my face. I didn't think the Kodiak was going to come up and smash the poor little baby Agonizer in the face. But he did. And then put some hurting on the Sentry that's also sitting back on the back side of the zone. So, thoughts. Okay, we have the one Sentry who is frozen and was still sitting with like 3 Fury on him and like 5 health boxes or less. I think he had basically had a couple points in body, and that's all he had. He of course failed his frenzy check, and per the new rules, he ended up smacking the closest. He became unstationary and smacked the closest thing, which happened to be the Juggernaut. I'm not sad about that. Let him smack the Juggernaut. And Taodark last turn ended up popping his feet. And when he popped his feet, he ended up getting the Kodiak out of his control area. So the one thing that will not benefit from his +3 armor is that one Kodiak that's sitting on my side of the table. I'm hoping that the Gladiator with Enrage in the back arc should be able to hit it and hopefully be able to kill it. So placing the marker down, checking the lines. I was thinking I was going to try charging in, but then I figured, why do I really need to charge? Because I can walk the distance and save the Fury, for it would cost to charge. So let's see. Who did I start with first? Oh, I start with the Cannoneer first. Cannoneer ends up taking a shot at the Behemoth, trying to do something to it. I mean, I'm down 8, but I can boost the damage. He's easy enough to hit. I took a aimed shot, so I went to like a Rat 6. So pretty much almost anything, but almost anything to hit. I think I need 4s to hit. And with good splash damage, I could potentially take out the Tinker or Bob back there. And unfortunately, I didn't quite do that. So the beast handlers advance. I'm trying to make sure they don't get too close to where they can get hit by any splash damage, and conditioning and enraging and all the other happy stuff that they normally need to do. And so now we take the Gladiator, and he just kind of saunters up behind the Kodiak and proceeds to start to try to beat the living hell out of him, because, well, the Kodiak needs to get out of the way and die, because he's in my way. Earlier I ended up moving the Willbreaker, and I believe he put up Puppet Master up on the Sentry, because the Sentry is going to have a job to do when he goes in on the Behemoth. So I'm hoping that his 3 initials plus whatever else I can buy, basically 2 additional ones with Puppet Master, will be enough to drop the big boy. He hasn't taken any damage really, except for the 1 shot from the Cannoneer, and the rest of it's just going to be hopes and prayers that he can do what he needs to do. I was going to try to put blood mark up on him. That's why I measured the 8, but I did not move the beast handler quite far enough forward. So he is, I couldn't blood mark him, because that'd be really sweet to drop him by 2 armor, because, that'd just be funny. So then Rasheth activates. He does all of his happy, joy stuff to, between Rush and I think I even put up Carnivore on the guy. And then the blue unit activates. They come up. They try to do some fury mitigation, adding, subtracting, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, he puts up Rush. I mean, it's pretty much everything's lined up. The Extoller ended up moving around, because the Extoller really has nothing to do. So I had him run, because my hope was to get him around that corner and to potentially get him to the point to where he could, maybe not this turn, but next turn, contest Taodark's flag and stop him from scoring too many more points. So now we got the Sentry that came in. He did spend 1 for charging, and we just everything, by the time this turn is done, there's 3 tokens on him, because I need all 3. So that finishes out. And back to these Muso mini tokens. They're actually kind of really nice. They're like I said, they're smaller than I'm used to, but they don't take up much room on the table. They look nice, and it's nice because the different shapes dictate the different abilities they kick into. And as you can tell, the Behemoth still stands.
Khador, turn 4. I have to admit, this has been a really good game. Even though I got tilted on my opponent's feed turn, we're definitely both making a game of it. We're at 3-2 on the scenario. There's no way I'm going to get in this. Assassination's basically off the table. I keep getting gummed up. There's no way I'm going to be able to kill the caster in time for me to prevent him from winning on the scenario. The likelihood of me being able to kill him before he gets to 5 is just seems to be off the table for me. I'm going to check into it, look into the opportunities. Can I use the bombards in any way to threaten him or put damage, or something like that? And I just decide, you know what, I'm just gonna use the armor pierce to deal with this Sentry that's in front of me. So, my feet turn definitely came into play. It saved me. It kept a lot of my pieces still in play and still alive and still fully functioning. He's having a hard time at crippling out systems because Khador Jax can be a pain in the butt. And the fact that I've got a Tinker too. So I'm looking at the table, trying to figure out what's going on, and I realize that I may actually have a scenario win potential. First thing I need to do is make sure that I'm not going to get contested in my turn or the following turn. So Harkevich bases with the flag, and then shoots off one of the handlers with his hand cannon. So currently, right now, the only other handlers on the table that could potentially contest me is the one that's currently engaged by a Juggernaut, which a free strike from a Juggernaut's not only going to plaster him, but with the Juggernaut's increased mat, it's going to make it so that it's very easy to deal with. So I allocate out some focus, I activate some things, and basically what I'm looking at is if the Behemoth can advance in a way to remove the Sentry. The Juggernaut removed the last Sentry. If the Mad Dog slams the Cannoneer out of the zone, or maybe it's Gladiator. No, I don't think it's Cannoneer. If he slams that heavy out of the zone, nothing's in the zone right now. I can score one on my flag, one on my zone. I'll go to 4. He'll go to 4. He won't have any way necessarily to remove me from the zone, because I have too many heavies in the zone, nor will he have a way of necessarily contesting me, because the only thing that would have a distance to run and contest me would be his Beast Handler, which again has to take a free strike from Juggernaut, and that seems like a horrible idea. So it becomes a scenario of I potentially go, he goes to 5, I go to 5, because he'll contest my zone for sure. He goes to 5, I go to 5, and then all I have to do is trample a heavy over to contest him for a turn, and then I go to 6 and he stays at 5 and I win. So we go through the activations. The Juggernaut obviously removed the one heavy that was in front of him. We saw that happen into play, but not only do I manage to not kill the Sentry with Behemoth, I leave him on a single hit point, but when the Mad Dog charges in, I miss on double ones to knock him out of the zone.
Alright, turn 4. He couldn't get anything over to score in my zone. I could have taken the time to try to beat him some more stuff. But it was one of those things where I could just finish my turn and be done. 5 points for victory.
So for my afterthoughts, like I said, I had a lot of fun with this game. We were definitely making game. It was going back and forth. I honestly feel like it was one of the better times where I felt more in control of the game, and that was partially because I was spending a lot more time pre-measuring, figuring out where things were going to go before I touched anything. And then also the fact of Harkevich feels very much like he runs a similar list to Karchev, but he's more defensive. Whereas Karchev is much more aggressive and much more damage outputting. Harkevich is more, I take it on the face, it's that Khador, I take it on the face, and then I just going to punch you back in the following turn. With better play, I probably wouldn't have lost as much, and the high damage output and escort and everything else going to make Khador Jax much faster. So he's got the same kind of movement potential as Karchev. I'm probably going to be picking up Karchev and trying to port this list into a Karchev list. We'll have to see how that works out. Trying to figure out a proper way of converting a undead Karchev is my current delay at this point. But we'll see how it goes. I love the fact that I'm able to run this many heavies. And we'll see how it plays out under a new caster. Until then, we'll see you next week, and thanks for watching.